Welcome to Serenity and Fire, the podcast where wellness meets grit. I'm your host, Krista Guidenti, founder of Panacea Luxury Spa Boutique. Join me as we dive into the intriguing world of biohacking, clean living, cutting-edge spa trends, and the hustle, grind, and grit of entrepreneurship. From my personal battles with weight management, infertility, and a 30-year journey to create and launch my dream business, to building a sanctuary for those who have been touched by cancer, I'm here to share real talk, inspire big dreams, and spark a passion for holistic living inside each and every one of you. So let's dive in. Welcome back to Serenity and Fire. Valentine's Day just passed, and whether you celebrated in a big way, kept it simple, or let it roll by quietly, it's a good moment to pause and reflect on something deeper than the holiday itself, and that is the power and importance of connection. We tend to separate our lives into categories: business over here, relationships over there, wellness somewhere else altogether. But the truth is, connection is the common denominator in all of these things. And lately, I've been thinking a lot about how often we underestimate the power of being together. And when I say together, I mean really being together, intentionally, meaningfully, and without distractions. I've also been thinking about how connection shows up everywhere, in leadership, in teams, in partnerships, in families, and in the way we care for one another. Between our year-end leadership retreat, an incredible charity event that we had for cancer-free kids at the spa a couple of weeks ago, and our upcoming Couples Connection and Love Language workshop, something became very clear to me. Connection is not just important, it's strategic, and I would argue, vital to our very existence. I think we all know we need to connect with our friends and our partners if we want to have any kind of a meaningful relationship. But what about in business? Is it all grind and hustle, or does connection actually fuel performance? I would argue that it definitely does. In fact, I think connections may be just as important and maybe more important than anything else we do in our businesses. And here is a perfect example of this. I recently had a couple of people on my team, a manager and one of her team members, who were just fundamentally misaligned. It just seemed that no matter what this manager asked of her team member, she just bucked her at every turn. They were butting heads constantly, and the crazy thing about all of this is that they wanted the same things in the end. They had the same goals, and they both wanted the company to win in every possible way. After listening to both sides, it became obvious that they didn't trust each other's intentions. And as soon as I vocalized this to them, it was like a light bulb went off for all of us. And I think the reason that they didn't trust each other was because they really never took the time to get to know each other, to really connect. And because this manager doesn't work in person with this team member every day, they were relying on texts and chats to communicate with each other. So messages were getting misinterpreted, intentions were lost, and grudges were deepening. My advice for them was that they needed to get out of the business and have some fun together. Have drinks, have dinner, whatever they could do to just hang out and get to know each other a little better with no agendas. They're working on that, and time will tell if we're going to be able to salvage that relationship. But my point is, progress cannot happen if trust doesn't exist first. And in order for them to build trust in each other, they have to connect. And here's the part that leaders don't always want to hear. Teams don't execute better because they're told to care more. They execute better because they trust more. I recently took my entire management team away for our year-end strategy planning meeting to Navarre Beach, Florida. It's in the Panhandle between Destin and Pensacola. It's so beautiful there, and my husband and I go there every year to celebrate the holidays. But for 5 days of this trip, I bring my managers down and we do what I call our manager retreat. It's a time for us to really reflect on the successes of the previous year, to really plan out what our goals and strategies are going to be for the upcoming year. And most importantly, it's a chance for us to bond deeper as a team. So on the first day, I pick everybody up at the airport. We have brunch. We hit a couple of the beach bars along the way. It gives us an opportunity to just really disconnect from what was a very, very busy year and get to just hang out with each other and bond and, get to know each other a little bit better. We eventually make our way back to the condo. Everybody gets settled in. And then that night we ordered pizza and then just kind of called it an early night. The second day is when we do our strategy planning. And we also take that time to really look back on the year before. What things did we say we wanted to do that we accomplished? What things happened that we weren't expecting? What things didn't we get to finish that we wanted to finish? And do we want to move those into the new year? And then we move into strategy planning for the next year. What kind of things do we want our teams to accomplish? What do we want to accomplish as an organization? How do we make the business better, the experience for our clients better? And how do we make the business an overall better place for everyone to work at? And so it's a busy day. And then that night, Jason and I always cook dinner for everyone, which is really awesome because it gives us a chance to just hang out some more, really deepen our friendship and our fellowship. And then on the third day, that's when we wrap up the manager strategy planning. So we finish anything that we didn't finish from the day before, and then we dive deep into team building. This year, we did something called the relationship game, which I'm going to share more information with you about here in just a little bit. But this allowed us to really get into truth and trust within our relationships. And then after that, we cooked lunch. My husband made his famous grouper Reubens, which are to die for and everyone loves. And then after that, we actually had a company come in and meet us on the beach who taught us how to build like a ginormous sandcastle. It was super fun and allowed us to really work on a project together as a team. And it deepened our relationship. And it's kind of crazy because the next day we had a spa day planned, and I kind of feel like my team was even more excited about this sandcastle building class than they were about having a spa day. But it was just really fun to see everybody working together and building something that we never knew we could build. So after we built this ginormous sandcastle, we walked from our place down the beach to the pier, which is about a 3-mile walk. And then after that, we had dinner together, and then we went to a line dancing lesson at one of the local beach bars. It was so much fun. And on the fourth day, we do a spa day. And this day is a really important day for me because my therapists are constantly taking care of everybody else, and they never take the time to take care of themselves like they should. So this is a time for me to really pamper and spoil them and just thank them for everything that they've done throughout the year and get a little taste of what they've been giving to everybody else. But it's also an opportunity for us to see what other spas are doing, see if there are things that tips and techniques that we can take and bring back to our own services, or things that, we think, oh my gosh, we really like this, but we'd like to make it better by doing this. So we do get some really cool ideas for future services when we visit these other spas. And then I think most importantly, it helps my team see all of the things that we've incorporated and that we do that are so special in all of our services, why they matter so much and why they're so meaningful for our clients. So after that, we typically do a little bit of shopping, hit a couple of boutiques and restaurants and bars. And that night we did have dinner at a really cool place called Brother Fox. And then we made our way down to the Holiday Festival in downtown Pensacola. And so the whole day was just filled with fun and cheer and bonding. And I think the team really loved it. And then on the very last day, we go to brunch, and then I take them back to the airport. So yes, my point in all of this is to share that we did a lot of strategy work, but what mattered just as much was how we were together and how we grew as a team. For the first time ever, I saw the power of connection completely transform our team right before my very eyes. And what struck me wasn't just how aligned we became on our goals, it was how much easier everything felt afterwards. For the first time ever, our team felt aligned, eager, excited, inspired, not intimidated, overwhelmed, or inadequate. I could feel the maturity of not only my team, but our entire organization. It was truly something really beautiful. And the relationship game we played during our team building portion of the retreat took this concept of trust to a whole new level. It was honestly incredible and could have played out very differently if the culture on my management team wasn't as strong as it is. In this activity, each person had to privately rank every other manager from level 1 to level 5 based on how supported they feel by that person. Not how much they like them, not how fun they are, but how supported, how challenged, and how safe they feel with each other. A level 5 ranking meant that their relationship was a ritual cliche, the basic level of a relationship that's needed to get along. A level 1 ranking meant the relationship with this other person was at what we would call peak rapport, meaning that they really know each other inside and out. They have each other's backs, and they can take risks without feeling guarded. This relationship is challenging and supporting, and the parties really click and understand each other. And just to clarify, yes, I intentionally inverted the scale. Level 1 does represent peak rapport, And level 5 represents that surface level, polite, functional relationship. And why did I do it that way? Because when you map relationships visually, they form a triangle. The strongest, deepest connections are fewer, and they sit at the very top of that triangle. The more surface level relationships are more common, and they form the base of that triangle. So level 1 is at the top of the triangle, level 5 is at the base. I know it sounds backwards at first, but once you see it, it makes so much more sense. After each person ranked the other members on the team, we paired up into groups of 2 and revealed our ranking for that particular person privately. Then we talked about those rankings with each other. After about 15 to 20 minutes of this type of conversation, we rotated around the room until we had a chance to share our rankings with each manager on the team. When I initially told my team how this activity was going to work, some of them were terrified, I'm going to be honest. And as they were ranking their fellow team members, they worried about what might be revealed and how they would feel if a team member ranked them lower in the relationship than they thought they would be ranked. But I insisted that they had to be honest, because here's the thing. If we can't tell each other the truth in a safe environment like this, we won't tell each other the truth when something actually matters. And as their leader, I had to ask myself, have I created an environment safe enough for that level of honesty? So as we got into the rules of the game, we talked about the balance between encouragement and challenge, how too much encouragement is just cheerleading, and how too much challenging can border on bullying, and how real leadership has to have both. With all of that in mind, they committed to being brutally honest with each other, because otherwise the relationship game wouldn't work. Some rankings weren't what we expected, but that is exactly why this worked so well. And that's why this ended up being one of the most growth-producing hours we've ever spent together. We all quickly realized that if someone ranked you lower than you expected, this opened the door for real communication about the disconnect in that relationship and what, if anything, they wanted to do to improve their relationship. This kind of data creates significant opportunities because it forced us to ask, how well do we really support each other? Is that support consistent, or do we only support each other when it's convenient? Can we challenge each other without causing harm and encourage each other without just cheerleading? Are we working efficiently at the levels we were ranked? Is there a gap in our relationship, and if so, why? And do we want more out of that relationship, and if so, how do we get there? This exercise was incredibly enlightening, and while my team already had strong relationships, this exercise made them even stronger and forced them to recognize gaps they didn't know existed. What struck me later, though, is how similar this exercise is to what we teach couples in our workshops at the spa. You see, the nervous system doesn't know whether stress is coming from the boardroom or the bedroom. Stress hormones don't discriminate, and cortisol doesn't ask where the tension originated. And the bottom line is this: whether it's a leadership team or a couple's relationship, we regulate, grow, and succeed better together. Accountability isn't pressure, it's partnership. And when you make a specific commitment to a single person, follow-through increases dramatically. On the 21st of February, we're having a couples connection and love language event at the spa with a wine and chocolate tasting and some connection time in our amenities afterwards. If that sounds like something you would value, I'd love to see you there, because it's going to be such a special night with delicious chocolate desserts from the Chocolate Cafe paired with some of our favorite wines, hot chocolate bombs, and an interactive and fun couples workshop that's going to be put on by one of our favorite certified health coaches, Tina Marie. In this workshop, Tina talks about what she calls the ripple effect. This is based on the idea that we naturally mimic the behaviors, habits, and emotional tone of the people closest to us. That's true in marriage, it's true in families, and it's absolutely true in organizations too. At our manager retreat, we saw this play out in real time. When one leader showed vulnerability, others followed. When one leader took ownership, accountability rippled outward. And when we translate Tina Marie's 3 relationship principles into the language of business, it looks something like this. The first principle is mimicking habits. And in business, this shows up as emotional regulation. Teams mirror leadership. Calm creates calm. Chaos creates chaos. This is why being physically together mattered so much at this retreat. Presence lowers stress. It synchronizes nervous systems and creates safety. The second principle is moving from my plan to our plan. In couples, that might be a shared food plan, an exercise routine, or a scheduled couples activity. In leadership, it's shared metrics, shared ownership, shared wins. Decision fatigue decreases when people know they're moving in the same direction and when they have a team to support them. to have their back and to guide, advise, and share tips, key learnings, and experiences to help them through whatever challenges they may encounter. And when we look at the third principle, this one might actually be the most important. It's the principle of progress over perfection. And this is something that I've definitely talked about in a lot of my podcast episodes, whether we're referring to going clean, managing your metabolic health, or optimizing your health goals. It's always a topic of discussion. At the manager retreat, we weren't chasing perfect answers. We were stacking small wins, and that is important because momentum builds trust. Trust builds engagement, and engagement builds results. At the end of the day, whether we're talking about a significant other, a friend, or a team, success comes from connections, and connections allow us to share productive habits, mirror positive behaviors, support progress over perfection, hold each other accountable, and it allows us to move from me to we. And I saw this again when we hosted a recent fundraiser at the spa. I mentioned this earlier for Cancer-Free Kids. This event was so cool because if you're not familiar with Cancer-Free Kids, they're an organization that actually originated in Cincinnati and they've expanded into the Columbus market. But what they do is they raise money for pediatric cancer research specifically for Cincinnati Children's and nationwide children's hospitals. The organization's incredible, and the amount of funding that actually goes towards pediatric cancer research is so minimal. So the cause is super, super important. And for me personally, it means so much because when I originally created this dream of Panacea 35 years ago, my plan was to create a spa for families that had kids with cancer. And it's evolved into something a little bit different. So when I created the Panacea that exists today, I told myself that our philanthropy efforts would be focused towards causes that are involved with pediatric cancer. And so I was really excited to meet Cancer-Free Kids and to be part of their organization and to help them sponsor this important event at Panacea. And one of my team members actually sent me a message after the event, and she said, "I saw there was a Cancer-Free Kids event at Panacea yesterday. So sweet. What a special, amazing place to work. So positive and healing and so amazing for the community." And she was referencing, the fact that she works at Panacea and that we're committed to these types of causes. And that honestly filled my heart so much. It was so sweet. And my point is that when a team rallies around something bigger than themselves, culture deepens. Purpose isn't a side project. It's connective tissue. And for me, for my team, and for the community, this means everything. So if you're listening as a leader, a partner, or a human trying to do this well, here's what I'll leave with you. Create shared experiences on purpose. Measure connection, not just output. Choose progress over perfection and do it together. Whether we're talking about a couple, a leadership team, or an entire organization, shared efforts beat solo intensity every time. So Valentine's Day may be over, but the work of connection is ongoing. In business, in relationships, in the way we love, but also in the way we lead. And what I hope you take from this today is this. Connection isn't indulgent. It's also not a time waster or an annoyance. It's preventative, it's strategic, it's vital, and it's worth protecting. In a world that keeps telling us to optimize, automate, and accelerate, I think the real advantage belongs to those who connect more deeply. Because connection doesn't slow growth. It's what makes growth sustainable. The strongest teams, the healthiest relationships, and the most resilient businesses aren't built on hustle alone. They're built on trust, shared experience, and intentional connection. So as we wrap up for today, I want to ask that you focus on the connections you're making. Be intentional in creating opportunities for those connections. Be mindful of their importance and be present when you're fortunate enough to have those special connecting moments. And connect with me. Share your connection success stories. What works for you and your teams, your businesses, your relationships, and what connections help drive your personal health and wellness goals? I want to know them all. Let's learn from each other and make more meaningful and deeper connections together. I promise, as we do, it will make our lives and this world a better place. Okay, that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening to Serenity and Fire. If today's episode inspired you, the best way to support the show is to follow, leave a review, and share this episode with those you care about most. And don't forget to follow us on social too at Serenity and Fire. Until next time, keep balancing serenity with fire. I'm Krista Guigeni, and I'll talk with you more in our next episode. At Panacea Luxury Spa Boutique, we don't just offer traditional spa treatments. We create rituals that relax your mind, restore your health, and rejuvenate your spirit. From biohacking technologies to advanced oncology-trained care, Everything we do is designed to help you heal on the deepest level with clean, holistic therapies, products, and amenities that are second to none. And right now, you can experience 2 of my favorites, our whole body LED light bed or hyperbaric oxygen therapies. And as a thank you for listening, you'll get 10% off your first session when you use the code Serenity10 at booking. What is your panacea? Let us help you find it, because true wellness isn't a quick fix, it's a ritual.